Welcome. I'm Trevor with Kinda Fishy, and today I want to talk filtration systems. I have sponge filters running in all of my aquariums. I find them simple, easy to set up, easy to use, and that's why I've used them for everything. I do have a couple of canister filters I've messed with, but they're a little more work to maintain than I'd like, and having to set up the plumbing and all that, I just haven't really messed with them enough. So today, I'm in the process of moving some tanks around and setting up some new tanks. And one of the things that I'm doing is I'm setting up a larger tank to house multiple my axolotls. And I, in the meantime, need to set up a temporary tank for two of my adults to share one 20-gallon long. So I currently have a large sponge filter in each tank with them. And instead of just combining the two and having two sponge filters running, I really wanted to find a better solution. And I done a lot of research, looked into canister filters, looked into doing under gravel filters, and I really just keep coming back to wanting the simplicity of a sponge filter. So I started trying to figure out how to make the biggest sponge filter I possibly could without losing a lot of real estate in this tank, since it's already not huge. So I'm sure this has probably been done before. I couldn't really find anything about it, but I'm going to try to mix the benefits of an under gravel filter with a sponge filter. And instead of having gravel as my filter media, I'm going to use a large sponge set up as the bottom of the tank instead of substrate to use as the filter media. This should allow me to easily suction out any debris that gets clogged. It should prevent clogging with the porous sponge filter here, as well as just the sheer quantity of it. Shouldn't have to worry about any clogs or issues with that, and if they do, I should be able to just use a gravel vac or something and suction any debris out. So I'm going to take you through what I'm going to do to set this up, and we'll test it at the end and see how it works. So I started with a larger piece of sponge. This was, I got it on Amazon. It was a little bit longer than this to begin with. So I just cut it down. I cut it a little bit bigger than the tank, as you can see, because I want it to seal well around the edges. If it still ends up being a little too big at the end, you can trim the sides, but I want it to be a pretty tight seal around the bottom. So let's take a look at what I'm going to try to do for what we have within the system. So the next thing I got was, this is just light diffusing panel, and I cut it to the inside dimensions of the rim so that it'll fit in the tank easily, as well as allow a little bit of space for movement, because I want to be able to kind of move it, and I want to plant some bamboo in here, so I'll be cutting extra holes in here to plant the bamboo. So I wanted to have a little bit of wiggle room with it so that I wasn't locked into the position once it was in the tank. So simply cut this with wire cutters from a larger panel. And we'll pull these off so you can see what I've done here. And then I cut out just two squares with the same wire cutters. These will fit a 1/2-inch PVC pipe, which is what I'm using for the airflow. And I haven't finished this setup, so we're going to be finishing it together. But basically, I got two T-brackets, a length of 1/2-inch PVC pipe, two end caps, and then two elbows to go on to the top of them to divert the airflow. So it's going to be a very simple setup. We'll have a airline hose going through here with an air stone at the bottom. I'll put one on either side. So I spaced them out with a little PVC so that the airflow or the water flows more from the sides than it does from the middle, because I want to be able to pull water from the entire length of the tank instead of just from the middle, in order to use the most surface area of the sponge that I can. So what I'll be doing is cutting holes in this section here to allow for the water flow to flow into the system, and then the air will drive the water up through here and out the top. You can cut these to whatever length you want, whatever dimensions you want. If you have, you want to use this on a 20-gallon tall, you can come shorter, wider for a longer tank, whatever dimensions that you want. This is 100% customizable. And the same with the lighting panel. Even if you have a larger tank that is bigger than the diffusion panel, you can zip tie pieces of it together so you can connect multiple sections. And then for how I'm going to hold this off the bottom, because you're going to need some airflow, or some water flow to flow through the bottom of the sponge, through the bottom of the system. You have a couple of options to do this. You can either simply have extra L's or T's that you set underneath it if you want to go that route to make it as simple as possible. If you want, you can cut length of PVC, which is, you can do something like this and then set them under here and zip tie them to the frame. If you cut them this way, you're going to notice that the T and these connectors are a little bit wider than the pipe itself, so there will be a little bit of a variance in height. But you could always cut them lengthwise and adjust for whatever height difference you want. What I'm going to do is I am actually not going to support the underside of it at all. I will be putting it in, and then I want this natural slope that this creates. So this naturally leans forward so that I don't want the diffuser panel to show on the front as much, because that's the main viewing area. I'm going to be putting this on this rack behind me that you're mainly going to look at it from the front. So I want that to sit below the lip here so you don't see it. So I'm not going to prop the front of it up at all. I'm going to let this pipe stand, hold the back of it up. It should be plenty strong for anything I'm going to put on it, especially with the foam distributing the weight. And then I'm simply going to cut a couple of holes in this to match up with our pipes here so that I can push the pipes through the sponge filter. And then I'll be putting some additional holes in here for some bamboo that I want. So that's the reason I went with the 2-inch foam, is because it'll hold the bamboo in place well for me. So I'll be cutting a hole in the bottom piece, the diffuser panel, as well as in here, so I can put the bamboo through and have the roots all the way down at the bottom, so that the roots will be pulling anything from the bottom of the water, and I don't have to worry about the roots trying to come up through this. That way that roots don't get stuck in or anything if I need to pull it up for any reason. And then also I'm going to, just for peace of mind, be throwing some bioballs underneath this filter system so that it'll run through this, it'll filter out any of the particles, and then it'll run through these, and these will have all the extra biological filter on them. So it will kind of work as a 2-phase filtration system. Don't know if these are necessary or not. I haven't tested it yet, like I said. So I'm going to put them in there, and I'd rather have more filtration than less. So I'm going to put them in there and see how it works. So we will finish the rest of this together. Like I said, I need to drill holes in these pipes so that the water can flow, and you're going to want to drill the holes facing the direction you want the water to flow. So I'm not going to drill a hole facing the back of the tank or the bottom of the tank. It's going to be the front and the top. That way it pulls all the water in the direction that we want it. And then when we're all done, when we have everything drilled, everything set up, I do plan on spray painting all these pieces that stick up. I'm not going to spray paint the diffuser panel, I don't think, since I'm setting it to the bottom so that you won't see it, because you'll have the sponge pressed up against the front of the tank like that, and you shouldn't see the diffuser panel. But anything that sticks up above the sponge, I will be spray painting just a black, just to kind of let it match and blend in the background. So let's get this taken apart and we'll finish it up, and then we'll give it a test and see what it does. As you can see here, we have the tank with just the bottom section on it. We've removed the top pipes just so we can show you what we're working with here. So this is what the bottom looks like. You just have this diffuser panel and the pipe sticking up. I haven't drilled the holes yet, but what I need to do first is I need to put the holes into my foam to line up with our piping here. And then once I do that, I can see how much of the pipe I need to spray paint, and then also to make sure I can test fit everything to make sure it all works before I start drilling holes in the pipe. So let's put our foam back in. I want this foam to be nice and snug along the front and along the sides. The back may have a little bit of a gap, but as we start filling this up with decor and such, it should kind of push it down a little bit. So what we need to do is we need to find the center of our pipes, and we can look through the side back here and grab our scissors, and basically what we're going to do is we're just going to put a hole straight through the foam into our pipe pieces. And if you push down, you can feel through the foam where the hole is. So you're going to start there, find the hole, push down, and you're just going to put a single hole through each one. And then that makes it to where we can find the holes more easily, and also we can cut out the remainder of the hole and keep this in the same position each time. So with that done, just going to cut either direction until it hits the edge of the pipe. We're going to do that. Try to enlarge the hole a little bit. Now, see, this one is here, so we're going to go back here now that we know where the hole is. Do that. We're going to push it in both directions to the width of the pipe. And then you can use your finger, you can cut it a little bit more, but basically we just want it to end up the exact width of the pipe, and then we'll pull this out and we can remove some material from it to make it fit better onto these pipes. Okay, so now that we have the hole started, we can pull it up. We know how it lines up, and then let's get the tank out of the way. We can start getting it cut out. So let's move this all the way back here. Now just need these parts. And for this, we actually don't need that for right now. All we need is the foam in these holes, and this pipe, because we're going to make the pipe fit into these holes. There's a lot of give in foam, so you may have to cut more, you may have to cut less. I'm actually going to put a piece of cardboard down underneath this so that I don't cut up my tabletop. Alright, and then I'm just going to slowly start expanding these out. I'm going to do it slowly because I want them to fit nice and snug around the pipes. Enough to get it started. And you could try to use Anything that's heated, you know, a soldering iron or something similar to that, would probably make this a little bit easier. I do not have one, so this is the way I'm doing it. All right. So once we get it started on one end, we look at the other. We need to basically, on this end, just wide enough to get these pipes inserted. And we'll flip around, get them connected, and then the sponge has enough give that it'll fit right around those when you put it down. So let's take this off, put our diffuser panel back on. Cut a pretty tight fit on this one just because I wanted it to hold together whenever I moved it. All right, now that's there. Pull this up, and as you can see, the holes on the bottom side are a little bit larger than the holes on the top side. That's because the bottom side has to fit around these, and the top side just needs to fit around the PVC pipe. So do something like that. Adjust your pipes, and then there you go. Put your caps on. Then you can adjust these. I'm not gluing any of this down. That way I can change the configuration if I don't like it. I can disassemble it, change the height. I can do any of that just for convenience. And it's just pulling air. So there's no need for it to be a tight seal. You don't need Schedule 40 PVC or anything like that. It doesn't matter if it leaks air, leaks water. It's intended to be using all those things anyways. So let's get this back in here. Got it nice and tight. And then that is going to be almost what the final look is. So I'm going to straighten these pipes up a little bit. And this is one of the reasons I didn't want to change anything or glue anything down. It's because I may want to turn these to the back, may want to turn the side, may want to turn towards each other. I don't know yet. I'm going to have to use it. This is the first one I'm building, so I'm going to have to use it to kind of figure out what I like best. And then go from there. All right, so now that we have it fit, let's drill some holes for water. So at this point, pull this back out. It's pretty much done. Makes it a lot easier to get off once it's all put together. But let's flip it over, and we can drill some holes into it to get the water flow, or the air and the water to flow how we want it. All right. So move this tank back inside. This, so we can see now that we have it all put together exactly how it's going to fit. So you have the back of it here, the front. So the front is going to slope down towards the front of the aquarium. The back is going to be raised up here. So your water flow that you're going to look for is going to be coming from this direction. You got a tank bottom here, and then the back wall. So you don't want to pull from the back wall because there's very little filter there. But we do want to pull all of the water we can from the front side of this. So let's get this taken apart a little bit so we can drill our holes. All right. So let me grab my drill. Need to get a drill bit. I don't have any particular size that I'm using. I'm trying to use something kind of larger so that we don't get clogged up. Clogging shouldn't be too big of a problem because everything, all the water flowing through this is going to have already gone through the sponge filter. But just in case, I'm using a little bit larger of a drill bit here. And then I'm just going to start drilling a straight line down the pipe. Space these out about an inch. There's no real right, wrong way of doing this. You just want to make sure that it has enough water flow to pull through and that you're directing the water the way you want it to go. This doesn't have to be perfect. And if you do use Schedule 40, this is going to be a lot easier, or a lot more difficult, actually, to drill than this PVC is. All right. So I'm going to add a couple more to the middle here. Just to make sure that we have plenty of water flow coming from the middle of the sponges, which is where the bulk of the tank is. All right. Now, I'm not drilling any into this middle piece because I don't want the two air lines to fight for water. So I'm just having it pull from this side for this one and for this side for this one. If it's not enough flow, I can come in and add more holes to it, but I really want to make sure that I'm getting the water pulled from each individual side. That way they're not fighting for water flow and it's decreasing the overall water flow of it. Just gonna go through here and add a few more. It's no real perfect number. You just want to make sure you get enough airflow or water flow to match the airflow. So that's what we're gonna end with here. And then the next step, after we clean all this off, vacuum that up later. So let's put it back together so we can see what it looks like. You can take, if you want, a pair of scissors to kind of clean this up, to get any of these little burrs off. And try not to throw scissors like me. Alright. Now, let's get it put back together. So we have our two sides. And you can adjust these out and in a little bit to make it a tighter or looser fit lengthwise, just whatever we'll do. And we'll go in like this. Flip that over. We will put our extensions. And these I just cut to just short of the height of the tank. These can be shorter, longer. If you don't like the aesthetic, you could even just cut a really short piece and just put it right there. I want the bubbles mainly towards the top. So that's the only reason that I have a longer piece. There is a little bit of consideration with how the water flow works with the length of the pipe. I don't think it's going to matter enough for this size tank and this size sponge filter, since it's pretty overkill already. And then that's what it's going to look like. And then you can, if you want, spray paint these. I'm going to spray paint them black. You can also spray paint the underside here if you want. You won't be able to see much of it through the front if you have a rim tank, because the rim is going to sit higher than this. But you will see some of it on the sides as this slopes up, or if you are putting something in here to space it up, you'll see the front of it there. But I'm not using a spacer, so I'm not going to have that problem. So as you can see, we have all the holes facing this way. It means all the air is going to be flowing from the front of the tank to the back of the tank. So it's going to be pulling air through the mesh in the middle, through the mesh in the front. And I'm hoping to utilize this whole surface area of sponge. And if that's still not enough and you need more, you can always drill a couple holes here to try to pull from this area. Or if you want to reconfigure it, you could have these nozzles on the outside and have the entire bar pulling, and then this one's just pulling from this way and this one's pulling this way, and then you can use more of the surface area. But I like the look of having them closer together at the back just for the aesthetic of it. And then, like I said, I'm going to be adding these bio balls underneath. I'm just going to dump them in here in this gap that's created by this PVC and have them lined up across. That way all the water is coming through and pulling through the balls and then up into the pipe. So I think my next step is to get this tank put together. I'm probably going to test it before I spray paint it. I don't know, I might change my mind, but we need to test it and see how it works, make sure that it flows correctly, and then we'll see you here in a minute and show you what it looks like. Alright, it's been about 2 months since I set this thing up, and excuse the glare. This is one of the tanks I don't run a tank light on, so don't have a real good way of cutting the glare. So this is what the final product looks like. You can see that on the corners, with the way this one's set up, you can kind of see the white trim around just on the corners. If you get really close, you can see up at the bottom, but it's not really obvious unless you're looking for it. And then on the side, you can see how it's kind of raised a little bit there. And then in the back, I just hid these pipes with some bamboo. I just cut that into the foam at the bottom and put the roots down underneath the foam. That way that the foam could hold it up and the roots could grow into that space. And then so there's the 2 outlets, and we got coral here just hanging out. So that's what it looks like. That's the end result. So let me know what you guys think. Appreciate everybody watching until the end. If you have any questions, comments, or anything, please post them below or let me know.